So I got the tires all off. I had to take them off because I don't want to dirty my new tires and rims with the sanding process of the Nova. So I took off the mirrors, there's my lug nuts, and let's take a look at the old tires, which the car will be painted with these rims and tires. These are just my roller rims and tires, and that's because I don't care if they get painted. I don't care if they get dusty. But for the new rims and tires, I want them to look nice, and I don't want to have to clean them up if I do some overspray on it. So one of the first things I had to do to the Nova was clean her up. Since I did so many projects, there was fine dust all over it. When I was doing the cables, the battery cables and things, there was copper dust all over it. In fact, I still got a little bit, I don't know if you can see that, little specks of gold in the area of the window there. So I gave it one good cleaning with wax and grease remover, and I'll show you the product that I use. Of course I have to get some more. Basically that's what I'm using, and so gotta get some more, but I'm giving it a good cleaning. I have to clean the windows, and I've already started the masking process. Some of the masking process. Once I get it all masked, I'll show it in another video, but that's so far what I got done so far. But I'm going to talk to you about, I want to make this video and talk to you about the Nova project, how it came about, basically why I started this project and everything about it, as far as how it started, the plans, how it evolved, that sort of stuff. So I'm going to sit down, set up the camera, and get ready to talk. See you in a bit. I'll start off by showing you this picture that's on my garage wall. This picture is of a 1974 Chevy Nova, and this Nova was actually my father's. It's the only picture I have of the Nova, and what I did was I just basically enlarged it and printed it out and put it on the wall here as my motivation. But this is the motivation for this Nova project. Now, it went through several phases, the Nova project. It wasn't only about making it, you know, as I titled it, the REBORN Project. It wasn't originally supposed to be a REBORN project. The original idea behind the Chevy Nova was for me to get it and give it to my father. Basically, the story goes like this. When I was a kid, my father had that Nova, and he always had problems. That Nova always needed something worked on. And well, every time my father worked on that Nova, he dragged me along. At the time, I hated working on the Nova. I didn't want to work on anything, no car or whatever, especially when you used to work on the Nova in the cold, because, well, I'm from New York, and he used to work on that car whether it was summer or whether it was winter. Well, he passed on that trait to me. I started working on cars when I was, I would say, about 13 years of age, and it started with that Nova, and of course it progressed to other cars. When I became 18, I got my first car, and once I got my first car, I only worked on the car. I never really went to a mechanic. I basically just worked on my own cars. I found it to be very entertaining. Basically, it was fun to do. It was a very high interest. It was a passion. Well, my first car was a Chevy Cavalier, and my father bought me my first car, and he handed me the keys. Well, that memory stuck in my head, and as I got older, I started working on many cars, and one car in particular, the 1998 Eagle Talon, was my main focus. It was a big project. And I did restore that car. It was a different type of restoration. It was more of a enhancement. I basically made it to be somewhat like a race car. And well, all the skills that I have adapted over the years from this original skills my father handed down to me from working on that Chevy Nova, I put it into the Talon. And so I got to the point where I was finished with the Talon, and I wanted to do something nice for my father. It was always very hard to get him something for Christmas or for his birthday. And so the bright idea came about where I was to buy a 1974 Chevy Nova and do the same thing he did when I was 18 years of age. And that was show him the keys. Hand him the keys and he has a 74 Nova. The plan was to get a 74 Nova and no other year. I didn't want a 69, I didn't want a 72, I didn't want a 73. I wanted a 1974 Chevy Nova, the same as what he had. And I wanted to give it to him with no problems. See, that was the thing. His 74 always had something wrong with it. Well, the one that I was going to give him was going to have nothing wrong with it. So that was the original plan behind me getting a Nova. And in a few moments you'll see pictures of the original 74 that I first found after 6 to 7 years of searching. As I stated, I didn't want any other Nova. That was the only year. So because I was focused on only getting that year, it took me quite a while to find one that I can afford and one that I can actually, you know, fix up. But back then, it wasn't a total resto. It was more like an enhancement. I wanted to take this Nova, fix it up nice, and give it to him enhanced, basically just better than what it was. So I'm going to show that video right now. Okay, so you saw the pictures, and basically that Nova was a rust bucket. It was total rust bucket. And, well, I had total intentions of actually restoring. I went and bought floor pans because the floor pans were shot. But it was rusty everywhere. It had rust on the roof. The seats were shot. It didn't have good interior panels. It was just horrible. And they just did a mock-up of a big mess. And I didn't like that. Anyway, I had total intentions of working on it. Well, one day as I was searching for Nova parts for that Nova, I came across this one. Another 1974 Chevy Nova Custom. Now this Nova looked just like that Nova. That before, of course, I turned it into what you see now. And I thought, man, this is perfect. So what I did was I put that first Nova, the blue one, for sale. And 4 days later, it sold. And I went and bought this one. This one was in much better shape, and though it had rust and everything, the whole tail panel was rusted out and it had rust spots and, you know, it needed some work. I thought it was a better car for my idea of giving it to my father. So I started working on it. And I started doing, you know, things here and there. But I wasn't going to do the body work. I was going to take it to a shop and let them do it and maybe repaint it. Well, it turned out that my father decided, after I told him about it, finally, and told him my intentions of the car, he had decided that the car should be for me. He appreciated the notion, but it was decided that the car was going to be mine. But he really liked the idea, and it was great, and he enjoys what I'm doing to the car. But he didn't want me to do this and give him the car. So that's when the Nova became reborn, the REBORN Project. Right when the car became solely for me, I decided, oh, I'm gonna do so many things to it, because now I have no time frame. I could just work on it at my leisure. And of course, when you tend to take time on projects, your ideas start to flow. And because I had plenty of time, well, it just kept turning into more and more advanced things to be done to it. Now, one day, as I was doing some of the work, because the amount of money it costed to actually get this repaired was just astronomical, I decided, well, I should do it myself. And my nephew, he had said, hey, why don't you just do it yourself? You know, why don't you do the body work, do everything yourself? If you mess it up, you can always take it to the body shop. And I said, hey, you know what? That's a good idea. And that's when I started to restore. And so basically, that's the story behind the Nova REBORN Project. It was originally for my father, but then after I got the green light to make it for me, that's when it became reborn. And I wanted to make it with the idea that the car is going to be better than what it was in 1974, which was the original plan for my father. But I was going to do many enhancements. I mean, if you've seen the videos in the past, I did hood latch modification, intermittent wipers, you know, anything I did as far as body work, I just enhanced. Like I took off the seams from the tail panel, and I stripped it down to bare metal. Just so many things that I did for this Nova was on the idea to give it a rebirth. So now there is one other reason why this car is so special to me. Now in the beginning, obviously it was for my father and stuff, but this one reason, the second reason why the car is special to me, is linked with the original idea for the car and of course now. And what that one thing is the year of the car. Now, early in the video, I stated that I didn't want any other year except 1974. Well, 1974 was the year I was born. Now, when the car was originally, you know, the whole project was originally for my father, the idea behind it was that the car would represent me. Basically, the car will always be basically who I am. Okay, so if he was to have the car, he would know it's from 1974, and of course he would know all these reasons why I did it. You know, I would explain to him and stuff like that. But he would know the car was from 1974, and every time he was to drive that car, it would remind him of me. Now, he'll never forget about me because I'm his son, so he'll never forget my birthday. He'll never forget the year I was born. So with the car, that kind of enhances that idea. It kind of symbolically binds that idea. Now the car ultimately became my project. And so that same reason is now more enhanced. The car will always be the same age as myself. The car will always be somewhat linked to myself because I am building the car. From the very start of this project, I did everything. Nothing on this car was done by no one else. So this car, with the you know, with the taking on of the restoration project, it became so a very big motivational drive to learn everything I can as far as restoring a car, because I never restored a car before. I actually had to learn all these things by research, trial and error, and just, you know, basically making mistakes and doing it all over again. I learned how to work on this car, and so more of a reason why it's so special. The car represents who I am, what I've done, and so it will always be who I am and what I've done because of the fact that I built it. And of course it's 1974, the year I was born. Now the end result will be the car will eventually pass on to one of my daughters. And so again, the idea behind the car being built by my hands and the ideas behind the restoration project, Reborn, was my idea. It represents me forever. The car is going to always be my age, forever. So by giving it a rebirth, by building it all over again, and giving it a total restoration like how I've been doing, the car should last a very long time, even after I pass. So if one of my daughters have the car, it will always remind them of me. So that's why the car is so special. That's the story behind the Nova REBORN project. Now you pretty much have a good idea why it's called REBORN, and the emphasis is on the year of the car. Didn't want any other year. 1974 had to be the year, and was the only year that I was going to get, because that was the year I was born. Hope you enjoyed this video and this long story. As always, thank you very much for watching.